Stupid football.
Our top story tonight.
Mr. Patel, can I ask you, do you have anything to say for yourself?
An abuse of trust, the shame of the teacher who admitted beating boys during religious lessons in Lancashire.
This is Granada Reports. Hello, it's Friday. Welcome to Granada Reports.
Hello there. Also on the programme this evening.
Should we shop for longer on a Sunday? As summer's extended opening hours experiment comes to an end, we hear from the Northwest businesses who say we need to spend more on Sunday, and those who argue it's for spending time with family.
I'd never used the words the truth. This is the truth about the Hillsborough disaster.
The Sun reporter who wrote that infamous Hillsborough story says, "Don't blame me for the headline."
Joyous scenes just 12 months ago, but tonight we report from Lords, where Lancashire have been relegated from the top tier of cricket after winning the county championship last season.
And is this the poshest car park on the planet? Over 40 vintage Jaguar cars have gathered here at BAE Systems at Wharton. Why? The full story coming up.
But first tonight, the religious teacher who's admitted beating boys at a mosque in Lancashire. Irfan Patel hit his students over the head and made them stand in stress-type positions to discipline them at the mosque in Blackburn.
Patel escaped being jailed. He was given a suspended sentence after admitting cruelty. The judge at Preston Crown Court praised the courage of his victims for giving evidence against him. Ralph Blunson reports.
Irfan Patel, seen here on the left, taught the Quran in a religious school, a madrasa attached to a mosque in the Blackburn area. His teaching, however, involved cruelty to the young boys in his care. The court heard that Irfan Patel repeatedly abused his pupils. He would often hit them on the back of the head and neck. He would make them stand, touching their toes for long periods of time. One of his victims told the police he was proper mad. He said the boys were all scared of him and he would often make them cry. Mr. Patel, do you have anything to say? Do you regret what you've done? The bakery supervisor left court after being given a 40-week suspended prison sentence. He refused to answer any questions. Mr. Patel, The judge praised the young boy who first alerted police to the problem. He told the court the offences only came to light because a child had the courage to speak to a police community support officer. It would be extremely difficult to speak out against you, but he did. Due to a court order preventing us from identifying the boys, we can't show you the school here in Blackburn where the abuse took place. But Lancashire Police have today praised the mosque officials who run the madrasa for their teaching guidelines. It's a policy Irfan Patel chose to ignore.
The madrasa did have a safeguarding policy in place. They had a no-touch policy for which this teacher did sign up to. So they did everything that they could to ensure the safety of the children, so they should be praised for that. And as I said, it's very rare for us to get matters like this to be reported.
Irfan Patel learned to be a scholar of the Quran in India. He has no teaching qualifications in this country. He's been disqualified from working with children. Ralph Blunson, Granada Reports, Lancashire.
Next, the boss of the region's biggest shopping centre is calling for the temporary relaxation of trading hours on Sundays during the Olympics to be made permanent. Gordon McKinnon, the man in charge of the Trafford Centre, says shoppers and stores support the move.
The law currently limits shops of over 3,000 square feet to open for a maximum of 6 hours between 10 in the morning to 6 at night. For the duration of the Olympics and Paralympics ending this Sunday, these restrictions have been lifted. Some leading high street retailers say even an extra 2 hours trading would be beneficial on Sundays.
Meanwhile, in a recent YouGov poll, just over a fifth of shoppers said they would shop more on Sundays if the laws were relaxed. Our correspondent Rob Smith reports.
The golden opportunity of the London Games wasn't just the bagging of medals. Longer shop hours on Sundays were designed to up the economy while Britain went up the medal table. The boss of our biggest shopping centre says it worked and should stay.
We are in the service sector, and that means we are here to serve customers. So if customers want to shop, then we should be here open and ready to serve them.
Extra hours have put extra in the tills. At Liverpool 1, sales have risen 4% on Sundays during the Games. Stores at the Trafford Centre have done even better, with a rise of 13% and an additional 5,000 customers through the doors.
Everyone's working so many long hours anyway, aren't they? And a lot of the time, people only actually have the opportunity to go shopping on a Sunday.
Well, obviously, it's better for the business themselves, and obviously, it's better for the consumers.
You're not convinced about the idea of more shopping time on a Sunday? Why not?
Because Sunday's for resting. It's been like that through history. British history, it's been like that. Sunday's a day for church, it's a day to spend with your family.
Not a day to spend money?
Yeah, exactly.
Mohammed Abu Baker wants any money spent at his corner shop. His store in Manchester is one of thousands small enough to avoid the Sunday trading laws. But if everyone else opens when only he can, what happens to trade?
They can go out and buy the stuff from there for that night. They can do their dinner over there as a weekends and things. So,
which means they're spending money somewhere else and not in your store.
Exactly, that's the point.
If trolleys were loaded for longer, some retailers argue jobs could be created. Shop workers' unions in the Northwest say that isn't so.
Our members tell us consistently that Sunday's an important day for them. It's one of the few times they get to spend with the whole family. But we're also concerned about the business case as well. If you open for longer on a Sunday, what we do know is the cost will increase, but you can't guarantee the income coming through the tills, because at the end of the day, people have only got a limited amount of money to spend.
A limitation no amount of extra hours is likely to remove.
Well, Rob's at the Trafford Centre for us now. Rob, any chance of these extra shopping hours on Sunday actually becoming law, do you think?
Well, that's a big question, isn't it? The pressure group Keep Sunday Special insists they were promised by the government that this would be nothing more than a temporary measure. It would end when the Paralympic ends, and they expect that promise to be kept. Church leaders too are none too impressed, and it has to be said, so are some retailers. The head of Sainsbury's thinks it's an extraordinarily bad idea, yet there are still those in Downing Street who say that a permanent change is something that an awful lot of people want to look at, and there are plenty of businesses, plenty, who are more than willing to persuade them.
Rob at the Trafford Centre, thank you.
Next, the journalist who wrote an infamous article in the Sun newspaper about the Hillsborough disaster says he regrets the headline that was used on the story. Harry Arnold has told a television documentary he wrote a fair and balanced report, but says he was aghast when he saw the headline "The Truth," which he says was written by the Sun editor Kelvin Mackenzie. Hillsborough families have given their reaction to his remarks to our Merseyside correspondent, Andy Bonner.
It was the headline that shocked many on Merseyside and led to a boycott of the Sun that remains to this day.
And we're not going to buy the Sun.
The report alleged drunken Liverpool fans abused victims and police during the Hillsborough disaster. 23 years on, the man who wrote the article has broken his silence.
When I saw the headline, The Truth, I was aghast, because that wasn't what I'd written.
While it's Harry Arnold's byline that appears on the paper, he says it was the Sun's editor who wrote the controversial headline.
So I said to Kelvin Mackenzie, "You can't say that." And he said, "Why not?" I said, "Because we don't know that it's the truth. This is a version of the truth." And he brushed it aside and said, "Oh, don't worry, I'm going to make it clear that this is what some people are saying."
Since the paper was published, it's been proved time and time again that the allegations couldn't have been further from the truth. The paper has since apologised, but for some of the relatives of the 96 who died at Hillsborough, it's hard to forgive.
They went for the headlines, and mud sticks, it really does. And this is what we've been fighting 23 years, to clear their names.
No people in that position after a tragedy on that scale should ever find themselves in that position ever again. It must never, ever, ever happen again that a newspaper can tell lies about people who died, about the survivors who witnessed those deaths in the most unimaginable circumstances, that then can have lies told about them, about a whole city.
Next week at Liverpool Cathedral, documents about the disaster will be released to the public for the first time. And with them, relatives who've long suspected a cover-up hope they'll finally get some answers. Andy Bonner, Granada reports, Anfield.
Well, ahead of those papers being released, Merseyside MPs will tomorrow ask the Prime Minister to make a national apology on behalf of those involved at Hillsborough. That's if the independent panel's report uncovers more evidence surrounding the disaster. Now, in the next of our series of Hillsborough stories, Dolores Steele, a mother who took her 2 young sons to the match, talks to our correspondent, Claire Ashforth.
It was a beautiful day. Everyone remembers it as a lovely, lovely day. And on that day, I travelled to Hillsborough. I drove to Hillsborough. I had Philip, who was 15, and Brian, who was 13. We didn't know where to go. We'd never been there before, and I went and asked a mounted policeman, and he answered me very offhandedly, told me where to go. In actual fact, he sent me in the wrong direction, so we ended up walking the perimeter of the ground. The boys had tickets for Pen 3, Leppings Lane, and Les and I were in the stands above them. We could see from there they were obviously trying to speak to the police, and we saw people who we knew were dying. We had a nightmare for the next few hours. We were in a cafeteria, a long, great big room. Someone came out and stood on the table. For 11 people, he was saying at the time, for 11 people, it's the worst news. And they were giving descriptions. A very young boy, brown eyes, he didn't, he had bright blue eyes. They gave the hair colour wrong, they gave a signet ring, and they read the initials out in the wrong order. But when I heard about the signet ring, I knew. Les said he would go in and do the identification. When he came out, he said, they have grilled me for 3/4 of an hour about what time did you arrive in Sheffield? What did you do? We parked the car and we had a drink. What did you drink? And Les said, I had a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old in the back of the car. What do you think I drank? He said, I drank a cup of coffee. And he said to me, I know what they are going to do. They are going to say we were all drunk. Unbelievable. The big question was there, why? Why are they doing this? We were up against every authority. Everybody was against us. I think there's a whole string of people who will never, never accept what we're saying. They don't want to. They've made their mind up. That was the big thing. Liverpool supporters, you know, so they must be doing something wrong. The Liverpool supporters were the heroes that day. They were carrying the injured, they were helping, they were trying to do everything they could. And, you know, constantly this black cloud over them, you know, and there shouldn't be. There just shouldn't be. Unbelievable. Absolutely, and I think that's why we fight.
Dolores Steele, and you can see a collection of Hillsborough stories and testimonies from families who lost loved ones at Hillsborough on our website now. That's itv.com/Granada.
Right, still to come on the programme tonight.
Back to school for the rowers who proved they were in a class of their own at the Olympics.
And not just 2 Jags, but loads. An important anniversary for Jaguar. We'll be exploring the company's roots in Lancashire.
So to sport and